In the back windows of SUVs and on the street walls of modern India, the image of Bhagat Singh is consistent: a fierce, mustachioed warrior, often with a pistol as his weapon of choice. We have largely codified him as an angry young man, a rebel defined by the physical force he directed at the British. But this focus on his muscle might be obscuring the actual source of his power. Have we spent decades celebrating the wrong weapon? On the evening of March 23, 1931, in his final hours before execution, Singh wasn't pacing his cell in a rage. He was sitting quietly, finishing a biography of the Russian revolutionary Vladimir Lenin. While he had indeed fired the shots that killed a British police officer, Singh realized that a few bullets could only do so much. He spent his final years proving that his most lethal threat to the empire wasn't his aim, it was his intellect. By framing him only as a militant, we risk stripping away the very ideas that the British were actually terrified of. The catalyst was undeniably violent. At 12 years old, Singh stood in the Jallianwala Bagh shortly after the 1919 massacre, carrying home a bottle of blood-stained soil as a reminder of what the British were capable of. Seeing his people crushed by a militarized occupation naturally pushed him toward armed resistance. In those early years, the logic was simple: answer force with force. But during his years underground, and eventually in jail, his methodology evolved. He became a frantic scholar, consuming over 300 books on history, economics, and law while behind bars. His studies pulled him toward an international socialist philosophy. He began viewing the Indian struggle not just as a fight for territory, but as one front in a global war against class exploitation. He formalized this change by convincing his comrades to rebrand their organization as the Hindustan Socialist Republican Association. Singh had reached a sharp conclusion. If the systems of poverty and land ownership didn't change, then simply replacing a white British ruler with a brown Indian one would leave the common man in the same chains. In late 1928, tensions reached a breaking point. The British police beat his mentor, Lala Lajpat Rai, so severely that he died weeks later. Soon after, the government attempted to pass new, draconian laws to crush labor unions and detain activists without trial. Inside the Central Legislative Assembly, they orchestrated political theater. They constructed low-intensity explosives to make a massive noise without harming anyone. Dropping bombs into empty spaces, they scattered leaflets reading, "It takes a loud noise to make the deaf hear." Instead of using the chaos to escape, they dropped their weapons and welcomed arrest. This was a calculated move to pull the British legal system into a trap, turning their upcoming trial into a national stage for their manifesto. Singh maintained this pressure from inside, leading a 116-day hunger strike to force the British to treat Indian activists as political prisoners rather than common criminals. He had transformed the jail and the courtroom into far more effective arenas for revolution than any street corner could ever be. As the date for his hanging drew near, the British administration began to panic. They realized that by executing him, they were creating a martyr whose ideology was already spreading faster than they could track. Fear drove the empire to break its own laws. They moved the hanging forward by 11 hours, breached the rear wall of the jail to bypass the massive crowds, and secretly burned his remains under the cover of darkness. The British were losing their grip because this 23-year-old was successfully mobilizing people across religious and caste divides. His message of secular unity threatened the very divide and rule strategy that held the empire together. Singh warned his followers that the sword of revolution is sharpened on the whetting stone of ideas. Violence, in his view, was a tool of last resort, but ideas were the engine. Honoring Bhagat Singh requires more than just displaying his photo. It means engaging with his work, reading, questioning power, and striving for a society where no one is exploited. The British administration could destroy the man, but they found themselves utterly unable to kill the mind.